Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to try and make sense of what on earth happened with SoFi's stock. It was one of those days that just leaves you scratching your head, full of contradictions, where the market did one thing, the economy did another, and the big money investors did a complete 180 halfway through. So let's decode these conflicting signals and figure out what's really going on.
All right, here's the game plan. We're going to start with the big picture, that bizarre market environment that really set the stage. Then we'll zoom in on news that's just about SoFi. After that, we'll dig into the nitty-gritty trading data to follow the money. And finally, we'll see what the charts are suggesting about where the stock might go next. First up, we have to talk about the biggest head-scratcher of the day. And this wasn't just a SoFi thing. This was the entire market. We're in this really weird place right now where good news for the economy is somehow being treated as bad news for stocks. And here's the result of that weirdness. SoFi ended the day down 1.73%, closing at 26.67 after an absolute roller coaster of a session. And the whole reason for this drop really starts with that confusing, backwards reaction from the broader market. Now this is what's so wild. The day was literally packed with good economic news. I mean, we saw great reports on everything: producer prices, retail sales, the housing market, you name it. In any sane, normal world, this is exactly the kind of stuff that should light a fire under the stock market. Which, brings us to the million-dollar question that everybody was asking. If the economy is clearly flexing its muscles, why in the world did the market decide to sell off? It just feels completely backwards, right?
And this quote right here just nails the absurdity of it all. The key thing to understand is that for a while now, the market has been completely obsessed with one thing: getting interest rate cuts from the Fed. So whenever strong economic data comes out, traders panic. They think, oh no, a strong economy means the Fed won't cut rates, and they start selling. Like the quote says, it just doesn't make sense.
Okay, so let's shift gears and focus just on SoFi. With all that market chaos happening in the background, what was going on inside the company itself that might have been on investors' minds?
Well, there were two interesting little tidbits, but they were definitely not created equal. On one side, you had a nice but pretty minor update about SoFi helping its employees with their kids' college funds. That's great, but it's not going to move the stock. On the other hand, there was this very subtle, very quiet hint about a potentially massive new strategy. So a SoFi insider with a sharp eye spotted a little Easter egg that mentioned commercial real estate. And this is fascinating, because it might just explain why SoFi recently sold some stock. The thinking is, maybe they're not just raising cash because times are tough. Maybe, just maybe, they're building up a war chest to make a huge acquisition and jump right into the commercial real estate business.
All right, enough with the hints and the theories. Let's look under the hood and get down to brass tacks. Beyond the headlines, what were traders in the big institutions actually doing with their money? The raw numbers here tell a pretty dramatic story.
You can almost feel the pessimism coming off this chart, especially from early in the day. The options market was overwhelmingly negative. Nearly half of all the trading activity was bearish, which basically just means traders were placing bets that the stock price was going to fall. This was likely a direct reaction to that whole good news is bad news paradox.
And then you've got the short sellers, the people who are actively betting against the stock. And wow, they are still a huge force. Even though they bought back a few shares, there's still a mountain of short interest. We're talking over 116 million shares. That tells you a whole lot of people are still convinced SoFi is headed lower.
The day started off with a brutal sell-off. I mean, right from the opening bell, the big institutional players were just hammering the sell button. They were dumping massive blocks of shares, and that's exactly what drove the stock price down to its daily low of 26.32. It really looked like the bears were in complete control.
But then, in a truly stunning reversal, the script completely flipped. In the last couple of hours of trading, a tidal wave of institutional buying just flooded the market. And we're not talking small buys here. A $38 million order came in, then another for almost $7 million, then one for over $5 million. This late-day buying frenzy is what caused that huge recovery off the lows.
So let's take a breath. We have a market that hates good news, a secret acquisition rumor, and institutions that sold like crazy in the morning only to buy it all back in the afternoon. What a mess. So with all that conflicting information, what do the technical charts tell us about where SoFi might be going? Well, despite that really impressive comeback late in the day, the technical picture isn't all sunshine and rainbows. The stock is still trading below several really key moving averages. Now, for chart analysts, that's a pretty clear signal that the stock's recent upward momentum is starting to run out of steam.
So what you have now is a classic technical tug-of-war. SoFi is kind of stuck in a room. There's a really solid floor of support below it, around $26.30. It bounced hard off that level during the day. But right overhead, there's this heavy ceiling of resistance created by those moving averages, and it could stop any attempt to move higher right in its tracks.
And all of this leaves us with the one big final question. Was this absolutely chaotic day just noise? Was SoFi just getting tossed around by the crazy currents of an irrational market? Or are all of these conflicting signals, the bearish options, the high short interest, that mysterious real estate hint, and especially that dramatic institutional U-turn, are they all pointing to something much more significant just over the horizon for SoFi?